introduction. I realized as I was editing this video that I didn't introduce myself at all. So my name is Sean. I'm training for my next Ironman 70.3. I'm also working a full-time job and building my first weightlifting app. I've been weightlifting for several years. I was a swim coach. I grew up swimming. And this is my third triathlon and second half Ironman. So I thought I'd share my mentality right now around eating when I'm training twice a day while also working a full-time job with other commitments. So this is what a realistic day of eating looks like. And as you can see, I start off with 2 pieces of toast and a cup of coffee to get some carbs and caffeine into my system before my first workout. So with that said, let's get into it. Well, if you can't tell by the goggle marks, I just swam and now it's time for real breakfast. So if you watch any of my previous videos, this is not new to you, but I usually do 3 eggs, a couple pieces of sourdough toast, and then I do a bowl of like frozen blueberries, flax, and protein powder and mix that up. Basically, the reasoning behind this is because since I had a couple pieces of toast beforehand for some carbs for my workout, I don't need a bunch of carbs, but I do need some to help with recovery. So this is kind of just balancing everything out. I do not like my eggs dry, so I'll leave them a little bit wet because they still continue to cook after they're off the pan. So like I said, I usually do frozen blueberries, but we're out today, so I'm using fresh blueberries, and then add the flax, and then the protein powder. Usually if I use frozen blueberries, I'll microwave it a little bit, and it gets nice and soft, and there's a lot of liquid. So this will be an experiment today. Also, don't forget the salt. I just make sure to salt my food because I don't want to pay for too much electrolytes, so I use them for long rides and stuff like that, but for normal stuff during the week, I don't really use any extra electrolytes besides when I salt my food, so that's why I make sure to do that. Okay, so this is kind of hilarious because I said I was doing a little lower carb for breakfast, but if you couldn't tell, we have some very large, beautiful pieces of sourdough, so I couldn't get like the right size that I wanted, so I just said screw it, and I got 2 big pieces. So this breakfast here is 889 calories, 58 grams of protein, 98 grams of carbs, and 29 grams of fat. I'd say that's a pretty balanced, large breakfast, and this will help me start the day and recover from the swim that I just did. For today, we're at 1100 calories with 64 grams of protein, 133 grams of carbs, and 33 grams of fat. Great start to the day. I'm gonna dig in and we'll have lunch a little later on. All right, so it is lunchtime and my lunch usually looks about the same, and basically what it is rice, some lean kind of protein, vegetables, and some avocado with some salt and pepper. So today we have some jasmine rice that I just cooked up and leftover lean ground turkey. And then I also have some leftover baked vegetables, which are just a combination of zucchini, broccoli, and onions and some olive oil. And so today's lunch is a little bit higher carb, lower fat, just because I'm gonna be going to the gym after lunch. So I kind of wanted to digest pretty easily. I have a good amount of protein, but not a ton. So this is about 113 grams, which is 30 grams of protein. So a good amount, but not a crazy amount. Usually what I do is I throw this together and then I keep working. And so I eat while I'm working and then use my lunch break to go run to the gym, which is nearby, and work out for like 30 minutes. So let's throw this together. All right, so we start with the rice and do 200 grams, and then we're gonna do our vegetables. I'll just do this whole thing. And our chicken, turkey, and then this is kind of hilarious, but this is the only remaining avocado that we have right here, a quarter. So not a ton, but our very last little bit. And then if I have it, I'll usually do some kind of sauce, but I don't have any sauce right now, but my favorite sauce is the Primal Kitchen's buffalo sauce. And I'll just put that over this and it tastes really good. And there we go, that's our lunch. Very quick, very simple, not anything crazy, but honestly, I really like it. Like I said, it's better if you have some kind of sauce. Primal Kitchen makes really good stuff, I would recommend those, but this is our basic lunch for today. All right, so I just got back from the gym and now it is snack time, which is my second favorite meal of the day, I think, because I love yogurt So basically my snack usually in the middle of the day is some kind of yogurt bowl. And today it is Faye 0% yogurt. I add peanut butter or almond butter. Today we have peanut butter and blueberries here. And then honestly, sounds a little bit strange, but I just pour on some raw quick oats. The key there is that they're quick oats, so they're smaller and they're a little bit easier to eat when they're semi-raw. But if you make this and you let it sit for a second, it's almost like overnight oats. It's really satisfying to me and holds me over until dinner. So that is what we're going to make today. All right, so this is the unmixed final product. As you can see, a good amount of everything. Sometimes I do almond butter, sometimes I do different kinds of fruit, but basically it's Greek yogurt with some kind of nut butter in it and some kind of fruit and sometimes extra carbs like I did today with the oats. So super filling, super nutritious, great stuff. All right, work is over and it's time to make some dinner. So we don't have a ton in the fridge, which is kind of funny because I'm making a full day of eating video and you'd think that maybe I'd like prepare or whatever, but I did not. So we just have whatever is left in the fridge, which is basically like the same stuff that I had for lunch. So I'm basically just gonna cook whatever veggies we have left, which I think is zucchini, onion, and broccoli. And then I'm gonna also make some sweet potatoes and bake that as well. So I'm gonna throw that all in the oven. And then we have some leftover chicken that we're gonna eat tonight. And I think that'll be our meal. So some veggies, some chicken, pretty simple, but let's get into it. And so one thing I've been doing, which really just boosts the flavor, is actually using a marinade on vegetables. So yeah, I've been using this roasted garlic Dijon and rosemary marinade. And since that's pretty light on calories, I will add some olive oil as well to help it cook a bit. Last step, I think this helps, is to actually really work it in there. So I like to scrunch up the vegetables a bit, get them a little bit damaged, and trust me, I feel like it helps to kind of work the marinade, especially into the broccoli where you have those, tiny little branches in the broccoli. If you squeeze them, it helps to get marinade all up in there. All right, like I said, we're due for a grocery run, so we're pretty light on the potatoes. I realized we just have 3 tiny little baby potatoes, so I'll probably be adding rice to this meal, but that's why I make just batches of rice, because I have it whenever I need it. We're just gonna make these into like wedges, kind of. Cut off the ends. Cut it in half. Cut 1/3 off. Cut the 2/3 in half. Wedges. And for the potatoes, I think I'm just gonna do some olive oil, salt, and some pepper, garlic powder, and a little bit of onion powder. Tonight, we're just gonna go simple and do garlic, onion, salt, pepper. Scott likes to watch, see if we can get any snippets of anything. Not today, brother. Sorry, I didn't drop anything today. All right, here we go. This is our final meal of the day. Sweet potatoes, roasted veggies, leftover chicken, and jasmine rice. I just want to recap real quick our macros for the day. So we're just at around 3,000 calories with 176 grams of protein, 350 grams of carbs, and 99 grams of fat. So overall, pretty high carb, moderate fat, high protein. And yeah, that's what I've been enjoying lately as I'm training for my next Ironman 70.3. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, see you soon. Bye.